Last couple calls, there were lots of conversations about virtual training and virtual events. So I'm happy to have a couple of folks today who are very well versed on that topic, and I'll introduce them, let them get started. They have a little presentation they'll run through, and we'll leave plenty of time for questions about virtual training and virtual events, and also just any general discussion that people want to cover. So our two guests today are, I think, well known to many of the folks on this call. We have Stan Brajer, who a lot of folks know through his work with Garmin and Polar. And then also Brian Rosetti. Many of you know Brian, and many of you certainly know his brother, who is the owner of Brooklyn Running and Scranton Running, right, Brian, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep, that's correct.
So I know you can't speak for your brother, but how did he come through, the looting and the riots that was at Brooklyn store touched it all?
It wasn't. It was right near the protests, but the store looks good. It came out unscathed.
Good. That's good to hear. So Brian, why don't we get right into it? Tell us a little bit about your event company and your experience doing these virtual events and virtual training. And I think you've worked with your brother probably among other retailers, right?
Yeah, I'm also close with Vince Sherry, who owns Run Flagstaff and a shop in Sedona at this point too. So definitely very, very familiar with the industry, and I've worked closely with store owners now with our coaching application at VDOT O2. So I can, do you want me to share the screen now, Mark, or just talk a little bit before we get into
why don't you talk a little bit, sort of set it up, and then if you have a couple slides you want to share,
sure.
I'd say get right to it.
Yeah, so our app is a coaching application. Many of you know Training Peak, so it's similar in that sense. It's a calendar application. Coaches manage their athletes' training through VDOT. So we've worked closely with stores up until this point, primarily with managing training programs as a way to better engage your customers around training programs. So you can manage their training, you can customize, individualize training programs and training groups a little bit better through our application, so you can provide a better service with your customers in and outside of the store. So we've really worked with stores on that front. And then recently, because of the pandemic, we sort of got into the virtual racing. We created a feature on our app where you can host virtual racing. Initially, it was just a feature to keep athletes motivated during this time. And then we took it a step further and partnered with Brooklyn Running Company to turn their road race, which got canceled this year, into a virtual race. So we created a rules process. We can programmatically verify race results and host a live results page, and just make it fun and engaging for stores to create sort of a real race experience during this time. Many of the virtual racing we're seeing is sort of just through social media, posting pictures of their runs, but this is verifiable and has real race results. We've developed custom notifications around the whole process to keep people engaged and make it fun. And Brooklyn Running Company has partnered with some of their vendors to give out prizes and awards as well. So I'll show you in a bit. The race results page looks just like any major road race. You can filter by age group, you can filter by age grading, location. There's a social component to it. You can see pictures of the different participants, and participants can share their results on social by overlaying the results on their photos, which is another nice feature. So we're really working with running stores to use the virtual racing again as a fun way to engage their customers, especially at this point. It works really nicely remotely as training.
Oops, did we lose Brian there a little bit?
Technology works. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, yes.
Altogether.
Brian, we lost you there. We lost you there for a minute or two.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So do you want to just maybe get into it and start to show
Sure.
a couple of the slides you have, and then we can open it up for questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just sharing now. Can you guys see my screen or no?
Not yet.
One second.
Here we go.
Okay. So any questions, please just jump in and ask. And then this is just a quick overview. I kind of talked through a bunch of this stuff already. I'm happy to dig a little bit deeper and connect with anyone afterwards, so you can dig into a little bit more of the back end to see how it works. So I talked a little bit about VDOT. It's on iOS and Android. It's also web-based. We've got athletes from all over the world that are currently using it. And primarily to get VDOT paces, when an athlete sets up their account, the app assesses their fitness, and then they always know what training paces they should be following depending on the different types of workouts that they're doing. So as I mentioned, the virtual racing, we really have a rules and guidelines around it. We have verification. Race results are filterable. We're really trying to make the whole process really seamless for race event organizers in terms of handling registration payments, customizing the checkout notifications, and race results page. We've hosted 5 races ourselves up to this point since we released this feature. We've had over 2,100 finishers. We have over 5,000 athletes who are now opted in to virtual racing on VDOT. And I mentioned this ability to overlay your result onto your photos and share on social. So we're seeing a lot of athletes share their results, which helps us reach even more athletes to bring them in and participate. So we're getting good feedback from athletes. They're having lots of fun. I'll
And
just
Brian,
yep.
I don't want to interrupt you, but how do you say athletes opt in? How, like for me, for example, if I wanted to opt in, how would I do that?
Yeah, so it's free right now. If you set up an account on VDOT O2, any athlete can opt in to virtual racing. It's a feature just like Strava. It's very similar where you can opt in and then you see the different dates come up on your calendar. So for a running store, one thing that we've made really easy for you guys, if you have a coach account, and you can leverage that coach account in a few ways, whether it's coaching customers or designing training programs, and then engaging those athletes and your customers through the app. And now you can create virtual race products as well. So we make it really easy to create a race product. You name your price, you select the distance, and put in your description, FAQs, anything else like that. And as I mentioned, the Brooklyn Mile is the use case that we're presenting here. You create your product and you immediately generate this race checkout page. You can see Brooklyn Mile designated a charity as the beneficiary for the race. They're charging $15. You can also, when you check out as an athlete, you can add an additional charity donation on top of the registration fee. We're linking right to their FAQs. This is a page that you can link right from your own website. If you have a race already that's getting canceled or you have to turn into a virtual event, you can link the registration button right to this checkout page. And then when someone checks out, the race gets scheduled on their calendar. They automatically are notified about the race coming up. They make sure that the athlete has synced their GPS to their calendar so that we're able to verify their result. And then we also send out emails in terms of registrations complete, next steps, congratulations on your race result, and we give them a nice recap of how they finished. Here's a live look at a live results page and what it would look like. You can see as an administrator or a race event host, You'll be able to see athletes' information. You'll be able to see whether they're connected to GPS, whether their race time was valid. And then you'll have the ability, which you don't see here, but you'll be able to publish the results when you guys are ready. And as I also mentioned, there's filters, just like any major results page that you can filter and deep link to. It's a great opportunity for content, especially when the results are live, if it's a race weekend or once the race goes live. It's fun to go on social and talk about the leaders and link to that page to get people excited to follow along with the live results as they come in real time.
All right, Brian, let me ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the Brooklyn Mile. Who owns that? Do you own it? Does your brother's store own it, or is it owned?
Yeah, that's Brooklyn Running Company race property. Yep.
All right.
That's
So
not us. That's
for other people on this call who may have races that they own, or races where they're the official retailer for, or races or virtual races they want to start, how does it work? Do you offer like a turnkey setup, or take us through that process?
Yeah, if you already have a race, it makes it really easy because we will give you the account set up on our app where you create the date, as I showed you, the date, the price, and it creates that checkout page. So all Brooklyn Running did was take the link to that checkout, link it up on the registration button on their existing race website, and that was it. So we handled the checkout for them, and then the whole process of getting that race scheduled on their calendar on the app. And then we handled all the notifications for them around leading up to the race, ensuring that the athlete was connected to GPS. We connect with Garmin and Strava, which covers a lot of bases for athletes in order to verify their results to participate.
And you anticipated my next question. How many participants or how many people have signed up for Brooklyn so far? I know that's like 10 days from now, right? Or less?
Yeah. We're hoping to get to about 1,000. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting close.
And what's the cost for a retailer or a race director? Is it based on number of participants or a flat fee? How does that work?
Yeah, so a coach account normally costs $200 for the year. So stores are using that coach account to train customers now and as the basis for a lot of their training programs. The virtual race management, what we're doing is working with each store. We take a percentage of race registrations. There's no flat fee.
All right, good. And do you have any more slides you wanted to take us through, or did that?
No, that's it. I have a lot more that get into detail, a little bit more detail. If anyone is interested, I'm happy to go separately connect with them and run through some additional slides or answer questions.
I see on my screen, I see Tim Rhodes up there wearing his Chicago Cubs hat. He's trying to hide from me, but I see him. So Tim, I mean, you're an experienced race director. Have you done the virtual events yet? You got to unmute so we can hear you. There you go. Oh, we're having trouble hearing you. No good. We're being plagued by. One more time. Yeah, I can't hear you. And anyone else out there who has races? I can't tell, Mitch, I can't tell if you're taunting Tim or if you're raising your hand to contribute. So anyone else on the call who's had some experience with virtual races that they'd like to share? And then Brian, I want to come back to you and talk to you about sort of, I got a couple more questions for you. So if no one else out there in Zoom land has anything to say, I'll just keep asking Brian questions. So Brian, what's your experience with training groups? and someone's offering technical advice. Chris Gale is offering technical advice. I think that's for you, Tim Rhodes. What's your experience with training groups and things like that? And also, for me, all the retailers I talk to when they do events or they do training groups, a big part of the benefit of that is driving traffic to their stores. So have you come up with sort of a digital equivalent of that?
Yeah, so real quickly on training groups, we've seen stores that have adopted our app where participation in their training groups goes way up because the programs are carefully structured where they're gearing up to a local race in many cases. Now it could be gearing up to a virtual race potentially, more in the short term, hopefully not too long term. And but you can always do both, obviously. And the customers are getting structured training, not just when they meet as a group to do these traditional group runs out of the store. They have practices where athletes are showing up and they have custom paces. They have more of a purpose to what they're doing. And then the store, whether it's coaches that they're contracting locally or they have staff who can manage this well. We work with stores to train staff and certify them as well in terms of the coaching, but they should be engaging those customers when they're not at practice, and they can do that easily through the app. And when we see stores applying that type of customer service, then we're seeing participation go way up. We had a store in Connecticut where they had 250 athletes that were engaged and participating in their training programs. And so when I think it's a little bit more personalized, it works really well. And when it comes to connecting athletes back to the store, one thing that we've talked about is shoe tracker that lives in the app that we can connect to the e-commerce, or so essentially they get a shoe that they like, they can see, or get some sort of notification visually that the shoe, because we know the mileage that they're doing, whether they're connected to GPS or logging it on their calendar. So they might get updates. We've talked about getting new shoes because they're the wear, it's about time to upgrade, and they can quickly do that through the e-commerce, or it can be done in a way where they know it's time to go back in and get that model or get a new shoe, that it's about time. And if you're having them at practice, that's a good way to keep them connected outside of the store and get them back in.
Can you talk a little bit more about that shoe tracker? So you're saying you can actually sort of go by participant, like if I was running in a race, you could tell what shoe I was wearing and use that as there's a mechanism to reach out to me?
Well, it's something that it's in process, but what we would do is we would have the shoe model on their calendar, but it would really be up to the athlete or the coach of the program to input what shoe they're currently wearing, and then we begin to track their mileage on that shoe.
Right.
So it does take a little bit of input, yeah.
And the retailer gets all the access to that information. Okay.
Yeah.
Stan, I got a question for you. As a former brand guy at Garmin, Polar, I mean, you in your career have bought a bunch of sponsorships. How does this virtual model apply for sponsorships? How can a retailer, in addition to getting the registration revenue, what are some of the sponsorship revenue opportunities that you see with these virtual races?
Well, I think, to Brian's earlier point, and I think we're all reserved to the fact that it's going to be virtual for the time being. We don't know if and when we're going to have an in-person race. We're cautiously optimistic that, hopefully spring of 2021, potentially before the end of the year, but I don't think that's realistic. So these are the only opportunities for the brands really to reconnect with the consumer. But then in addition to that, what I've been doing is developing a plan, because we're in unprecedented territory, right? How do we help the retailers and the brands with this transition back to whatever the new normal is going to be. All right. So now it's more than ever a true partnership. And since everything is being done virtually, here's a unique opportunity. Obviously, it's going to, from a sponsorship perspective, it's going to be at a smaller investment, but it's still, you're going to still reach, a decent amount of people virtually. And it's still a good opportunity, not only to reconnect with the consumers, but then also get together with our retail partners and develop this true partnership to help them transition out of this pandemic. And that's one of the things that I'm working on. We have to really be creative in this whole process, and that's where Brian and I have been talking about it for the better part of a month plus. Well, how do we best contribute this technology to the retail community and all the races that are not being held in person? We have the ability to do all this, but and how do you connect the dots? And that's where we're reaching out to certain manufacturers and seeing if they have an interest doing it, and not only with existing or new races, but if there's going to be a product launch. I'm representing a number of different companies. We're not going to be able to get in front of the retailers to present the product. So this will be a way to actually present your new product and your new technology, for the foreseeable future.
Okay, good. Question in the group chat, I think from Tim Rhodes. He says, give me an idea to enhance the road race that gets converted to virtual by adding time, awards, that sort of thing. So I guess Stan or Brian, either one of you could take a crack at that one.
Well, can you repeat that, Mark? I didn't follow that.
Yeah, it says, this is a question from Tim to everyone.
Yep.
It says, give me some ideas to enhance the road race that gets converted to virtual by adding times and awards.
Yeah.
So Tim, I don't know if that's a comment or that's a question, but if Brian and Stan, if either one of you could sort of speak to that,
Sure.
that aspect.
Yeah. So, well, we spent a lot of time creating a real results page. So it feels like a typical race. And it's not just like a leaderboard on Strava where you can look at someone's affiliation. You can we can sort by age group and offer awards by age group traditionally, by age grading, by location. What Brooklyn Mile did, which I thought was pretty innovative and fun, talking about Stan when he said we have to be creative, what they decided to do, 80% of the proceeds go to the designated charity, 20% goes into a prize purse. And so they kind of made it fun. Not only is there a prize purse, but it's all age graded. So it doesn't just go to the fastest male and female. On VDOT, we can do age grading very easily, and we can show. So there might be some masters, men and women who get to enjoy and the prize purse. So we kind of threw that in there as a fun idea to help raise more money and get more interest and engagement in the process. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but we can do a lot of different things and customize with different stores who want to do something different.
Well, I think in addition to that, if I can add something, I think a critical component going forward coming out of this is going to be that charity aspect. Because what I've been reading online is a lot of obviously a lot of the races are not going to happen. And a lot of the charities, they're not going to raise their typical amount of funds that they've been used to raising. So this is a way to fulfill some of that lost revenue. But in addition to that, this is a time when all the communities are getting together and you really can personalize it to your local community, whatever, if it's the food bank or the COVID relief, whatever it is, and really make it personal. And I think now coming out of this, everybody sees how serious it is. And I think more and more people are going to want to contribute and get involved from the charity aspect.
Well, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. So anyone else? I don't want to hog up all the conversation. Anyone else have any questions they want to type into the chat, or any other comments about races in general and virtual training?
But this is also something, if I can help any of the retailers with my network, with the companies, if there's a, footwear, apparel, technology, nutrition company that you think would work, and I can help, connect the dots or give you some input. And even with athletes, like I'm working with a perfect example. I'm working with Will Lear. He's out in Boulder, Colorado, and we're going to be doing a virtual running camp with Monmouth University in South Jersey in the Shore Athletic Club. And he's going to do a virtual live broadcast to the campers, because they're all going to be virtual, and talk about his training and racing. So that's just another aspect, because all the athletes are sitting around, they're just training, they have no races to go to, and they want to be involved and give back to the community. So I'm going to take advantage of, all those athletes and coaches and clubs that I have relationships with, and start to activate that, for the time being.
Cool, cool. I love that idea. Mitch, I like the comment you just typed into the group chat. Would you mind sort of expanding on that a little bit?
Sure. We use Run Sign Up for our platform. They've offered a new, it's not really new, it's been around for a while, but it's a RaceJoy app, and as a certified RaceJoy timer, we can offer things to our customers and either give it to them or charge them, either way. But in doing that, you can do a race anywhere or create an actual route for them. If you do a race anywhere and you run your race and you offer it as a virtual race, of course they can run it anywhere in the world. But in doing that, they walk out their front door, activate this app, hit the start button. Throughout the race, it will give them race cheers. And you can either promote your sponsors, promote your beneficiary, or just cheer them along, tell them, good job, you're at mile 1, mile 2, etc. So it's really a very interesting. All of my customers that are switching over to virtual, that have either postponed, turned them to virtual, or trying to cancel, seem very interested in it and are very engaged in getting this application involved in their race. So it's a good.
That sounds very cool. And you're involved with a number of races, right? You are involved, or you own a number of races?
We own 5, and we time about we normally time about 30 to 40 a year. And
do you see, Mitch, do you see this as an opportunity to make up for some of that revenue shortfall you'll have?
Yes, we'll continue. Our customers that go virtual, we'll continue to work with them, and there'll be a service fee for us to put that RaceJoy together. It's certainly a lot cheaper than them doing it without being certified, and then as well with our races, we had to cancel 3. One we turned into a ad hoc virtual at the last minute. Jesse Winnett had to manually post all of the results that people sent in. With this RaceJoy app, it will automatically load their times onto the Run Sign Up webpage, results page. So I think it'll help. It helped with that. And then the race that we've got in the summer, it's called Texas Too Hot. We first moved it from July 12th to, we'll now have it August 15th through August the 30th. And as people run through that period, their results will automatically be updated. And, so hopefully it'll get people to register and keep that side of our business going.
No, it makes sense. Absolutely. So any other comments out there from Zoom land on any of this? We have a quiet group today, which, like I said, I think the good news is a lot of people are out there reopening their stores and getting back to it. Brian and Stan, anything else that you think is important on this topic before we wrap up on this?
No, any input from any of the retailers really be appreciated, because this is a work in progress. Like Brian was saying, this is unprecedented territory for everybody. So I don't think there are any crazy ideas.
Okay. So we have some time left over. I think we try and keep these calls to about 45 minutes each week. anyone else want to bring up any topics or any questions? I assume that just about everybody on this call is open or close to it. So anybody have any tales or any success stories they want to share from out there on the front lines? First couple of weeks, everybody showed their pictures. Fewer and fewer people are showing their pictures, so I don't know what that means.
Mark,
So
one of the things.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mitch.
One of the things that we did that seemed to draw some business into the stores was these races that we've got that are local that are going virtual. We've done like a drive-through pickup where we set a tent up out in the parking lot, let people drive through, and two things happened when the race directors did this was save themselves some money on postage by not having to send the medals and shirts, but it also did in fact draw some business into the store because some of the people did park and come in. You know, we've got 50% capacity now, so it was a way as a retailer to also get people into iRun.
I like that idea a lot. That's you're the first one I've heard mention that idea. I like that a lot. And where are you at, Mitch? You have your stores are open and 50% capacity is the rule down there?
We're in San Antonio. And so we were able to stay open. We got we did podiatrist prescriptions allowed us to keep the door open for those people. Then we did curbside, but we are in San Antonio. We are at 50%. We're also seeing a spike in COVID cases, but they don't seem to be doing anything about it. They're going to let us continue to open. I think phase 3 is just around the corner, and I think they're going to pretty much open San Antonio back up.
And what's the experience like in your stores? I mean, are you guys, what's the interaction like between, your staff and the shoppers?
It's good. Our staff is very open. We do require masks. If somebody comes in, they don't have one, we've got masks that we offer them. Our staff is all wearing masks. We've got all the cleaning stuff, so you walk in, wash your hands, and we clean up after when they leave. But the environment here is great. Our business is up. We're up about 15% for June. May was a tremendous month. April, of course, wasn't, but it could have been a whole lot worse. But our market is very strong here.
No, I mean, the stories I'm hearing from people who have opened, the folks from Running Niche are not on the call, Bob and Jennifer, but I was in St. Louis last week and saw them. And I think they told me they were 15% up for May and running 35% ahead for June. So, I think there's a lot of pent up demand, certainly for product and just I think for people to get out and interact with their fellow humans. So, I think that's something that, we're seeing certainly in running stores.
Mark, I have a question for the retailers. So I'm sure you guys are experiencing the same thing in every region, that there are people out walking and running that never would have done it in a million years because they were trapped, and now they're getting outside just to do something. So I'm cautiously optimistic that a percentage of these people are going to continue to be active. And these are people that never ran before. They're going to get injury prone, or they really need our help in the Run Specialty channel on footwear and apparel and nutrition and technology. Are you guys seeing something similar? And what is your strategy, targeting this type of consumer?
Anybody want to take that one on?
Sure, Stan, you're right. We were seeing more people than ever, and we would always see quite a few people out running, but it's a significant increase in people that we see in the streets. The tracks are even after the track shut down, people were still going in and just going around the fence. And the result is we're seeing a lot more people coming in asking for tennis shoes.
Right.
They're not looking for running shoes. They're just looking for something to replace what they've got. Some we're seeing come in to get fit, and then they're going to go to Academy and buy a $40 pair of shoes. But we are seeing a nice increase in new customer business.
Yeah. No, I'm optimistic that that trend is going to continue. We're going to see a mini running boom / walking boom again. It's not going to be like the running booms that we've experienced in the past, but I think coming out of this, we're going to see a resurgence of people wanting to be active, and health conscious for sure.
And Mitch, are you making a concerted effort to like capture new customer data and all that?
We are. We do that. We get, it's our policy to get all new information. And Stan, to your point there, the best running business has been during a recession. Mm-hmm. And as we go out of a recession, people start spending money on big tickets. They go buy big TVs or washing machines or go on bigger trips. In times of the recession, it seems like they spend more small dollars that trickle down to us. Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be more staycations. People are going to be staying home. They're not going to be flying so much, and
right.
A lot of local stuff. So, I'm optimistic about that.
Yep. So hopefully it'll be an ongoing trend, and it'll last. We'll get a couple of years out of it.
Well, and also, the whole buzz is, help the small businesses again, because they were the ones that were the most severely impacted during this whole nightmare. So now's the time to support. If there's ever going to be a time to support your local businesses, now is the time.
Right.
So yeah, no, look, I'm seeing that a lot of exactly both things you're talking about. Number one, surge in new runners, surge in activity among people who used to do other things, but now are turning to running and walking, and just people who, again, I think are looking to get out of the house and get some fresh air and, engage in some sort of social behavior. So I think when this is over, the pie is bigger. It's a question of how much of that pie the run stores can capture. So, well, I think if nobody else has anything else they want to talk about, or nobody else has any comments, I think what we'll do is we'll sort of wrap it up for this week. I think for next week's call, we have a really good guy lined up. He's a business coach who specializes in small businesses. So we'll get that information out to everybody and promote it. I think that's the sort of thing that, he'll be an interesting listen and an interesting experience. And, everyone will get an hour's worth of free consulting out of him. So I'll get all that information out to everyone. But Brian and Stan, thanks. Mitch, thank you for your participation today. And if anybody needs anything, by all means, reach out to Christina or myself, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. But look, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you on next week's call.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.